I got my authorization to test on a Tuesday. I took it on a Sunday. I only had 4 days to study and I passed in 60 questions. Hey guys, what's up and welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel if you are new here. My name is Erica Andrea and I'm a registered nurse. Wow, that's the first time that I could ever say that. This is crazy. Today, I'm going to be telling you guys how I passed the NCLEX in 60 questions. I'm going to be giving you guys all of my tips on the NCLEX and what I think you guys should do to succeed. So let's just get right on into the video. So the first thing that I did to prepare for the NCLEX, which I would definitely recommend all of you guys do, is to take nursing school really seriously and like actually try to learn the stuff, okay? I did not do any NCLEX Prep throughout nursing school, got like NCLEX Prep books to do questions or anything like that. I really just tried to get the most out of every single class I took, and I used nursing school itself and clinical and all of that as my NCLEX Prep. The next thing that I would suggest is purchasing a UWORLD subscription. Basically what UWORLD is an NCLEX Prep subscription that offers a very wide variety of questions on all the topics that could come up on the NCLEX. There's over like 2,000 questions in this test bank, and I bought the package that came with the test bank of questions, and it also came with 2 practice exams. The rationales are really great, and as I was going through nursing school and even before I started, every nurse I ever spoke to told me to buy UWORLD and use that as my NCLEX Prep. So I would definitely recommend that to you guys if you are looking for something to use to study. I know a lot of people use like maybe Kaplan or other testing services or whatever the case to study, but I feel like UWORLD is probably the best just for the rationales. So I only did about 400 practice questions and the 2 practice exams, and the first practice exam I took, I scored in the 91st percentile, and basically they'll score it and let you know like if you have a good chance of passing or not, and I scored in the very high chance of passing range. So from that point on, I kind of like had a little bit of confidence in my back, and I was just like, well, if I scored that high, like that means I'm doing pretty good. Like I don't think I need to study that much more. But I did do UWORLD questions pretty much daily. I would take breaks for sure because for a lot of the time I didn't have a date yet, so I was just studying with no date in sight. So I would do like maybe 20 questions a day, read all the rationales, do another 20-30 questions the next day, and that's pretty much what I was doing to study. And once I got my test date, so I got my ATT on a Tuesday and I scheduled to take my exam that following Sunday. And so yeah, that was a pretty quick turnaround time. So basically what I did for that 4-day period, which is honestly the bulk of my studying, I would do 60 question test blocks on UWORLD, and I would read through the rationales, and I would type out in a separate Word document all of the rationales to the questions I got wrong, anything I guessed on, or any topic. Like even if I got the question right, if there was something that I wanted to just review because I kind of wanted a little bit of a refresher, I would add that to my notes as well. And I did that for the 4 days before the exam. As I was doing that, once I got to the Friday before my NCLEX, which is 2 days before my exam, I took the second NCLEX practice exam, and this one was harder than the first one. The first practice exam I think was 75 questions, so it really wasn't that long, but the second one was 100 questions, and as you go along the questions get harder and harder and harder, and it'll show you on your score report like the percent of people who get those questions right. It went down as you went through the practice exam. So I found the second one to be much harder, and I did not score as well on the second one, so I started kind of freaking out, you know, thinking 2 days before my exam I thought I was gonna score like in the 91st percentile like I did on the first one, but on the second one I scored in the 55th percentile, but I still ended up coming out as a very high chance of passing. So I don't know how UWORLD decides, what their algorithm is, how they determine whether or not you have a very high chance of passing, but overall, because I did pass the NCLEX in 60 questions, I would say that their scoring system or predicting system is accurate. Overall, for me, UWORLD was really helpful, and I think it was less about the actual questions, because some people will say, oh, my NCLEX was just like the UWORLD, it was just like another UWORLD exam, like the questions are so similar. That's not necessarily my experience. I wouldn't say that I got any questions on my NCLEX that came directly from UWorld. I wouldn't say that at all. I would say actually that the NCLEX questions were a little bit different from UWorld, but what I learned from reading all the rationales and making that separate document, what I learned from doing that, I was able to translate to those questions. And I read that the night before my exam, and I just felt really confident going over all that material because it's literally everything I needed to know, you know what I mean? So I wouldn't go into UWorld thinking that those are going to be what you're going to see on the NCLEX, because in my experience and also some of my friends, I wouldn't give you that false reassurance that the questions are going to be just like that and that you need to do all 2,000 questions and that's just going to be the test right there. No. I don't think it's going to work like that. And like I said, I didn't finish the whole test bank, but a friend of mine did. She did every single question, and she took her NCLEX before me, and she basically just told me, like, I don't think it's really necessary for you to do all 2,000 questions. It was a bit overkill. Like, I really didn't need to do that, and I didn't plan on it either. That's a lot of questions, and I just feel like I'd rather focus more on content than on doing a bunch of thousands and thousands of questions. Like, that just wasn't going to be it for me. And if you're trying to weigh the options and decide whether or not you need to buy a UWorld subscription or if you just want to use a book or whatever the case, I would definitely say it's worth it to get UWorld, and you will definitely get your money's worth. Like, I feel like the practice exams are really, really good predictors, and I feel like I really enjoyed the breakdown that it gives you after the exam of all the topics and how many questions you scored right in this topic, and what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses, how did you score compared to other people, how difficult was the question, like what percent of people got this question correct. You know, it just gives you a little bit of a confidence boost, and it lets you know like where you are compared to other people. So I think that was really, really helpful. The aesthetics of UWorld looks just like the NCLEX, so in that sense, when you sit for the NCLEX, it is definitely going to look like you're taking just another UWorld exam. And I think a part of that familiarity will just make you feel a little bit more at ease, as opposed to like having a whole different system that you're working with. I can't stress that enough. Buy UWorld. Everybody says to buy it, so just buy it, okay? So the next thing that I did to prepare for the NCLEX was I took the HESI live review course. Now, this was mandatory at my program. The price of it was included in the tuition, and I believe it was $500. And basically what it was a 3-day course or a 2-day course. It was long, child. It felt long. I think it was 3 days. It was 8 hours a day, and of course, if it wasn't in the middle of a pandemic, it would have been like in a classroom. We did it from home, and it was basically just a Zoom call where we had an instructor. Everything that you need to know about the NCLEX. We went through every single topic briefly. We did practice questions. She gave us like little ways to remember things. All of nursing school, we did like a crash course in 3 days, and it was great. I definitely would recommend the HESI live review course. I found it helpful because it kind of just gave me an idea of what things maybe I should go back and look over, and what things that I feel confident on. And I really enjoyed the strategies that were presented in that class, because it kind of helped me better approach questions that I don't know the answers to, because honestly, you're not going to know everything, but you need to have those skills in your back pocket to use like some type of method of elimination. Like, okay, I may not know exactly what this question's answer is, but I can get it down to 2, and how do I get it down to 1? That's the best answer, you know what I mean? So I really did enjoy that. I'll have the links to the HESI website down below, but I'm not sure how it works, because like I said, my school like hooked it up so that it was included in our tuition, and we didn't really have to set up anything. But my school has a really high NCLEX pass rate, and maybe it's because of the HESI live review class. I don't know. The very last thing that I did to prepare for the NCLEX was a friend of mine actually follows this account on Instagram, and I think it's called Your Nursing Educator, and basically she's a registered nurse, and she puts a lot of great content out on Instagram. She'll post like little practice questions to her Instagram story, and she'll make main page posts about certain topics that are helpful for the NCLEX. She has a nursing school study guide. She has like a farm study guide. She has like all of these different study guides, and of course she has one for the NCLEX, and I use this to study as well. Full review sheet of all of the high yield, which just means like things that come up on the exam a lot. got high yield topics that are on the NCLEX. It has like all the lab values, all the special diets that patients could be on, all the different types of positioning that you would need to know for certain patient conditions. If a patient had a certain type of procedure and maybe they need to lay flat afterwards for a certain amount of time, or if a patient has a certain disease process and they have trouble breathing and they need to sit up a little bit, like it has charts like that. It breaks down med surg, maternity, peds, like it just goes through everything, and I think it's a really great guide to use. I definitely would use that as a resource. I think it's great to have one document that has everything that you need to know on it, not to use as a singular source of studying. I definitely wouldn't recommend just buying her study guide and that's it. I definitely think you need something else with it, like UWORLD or whatever the case, to help you study. But I found it really helpful, and the Saturday before my exam I went through it and I read all the topics and I went through everything one time just to make sure that I had a refresher on everything, and I found it really helpful. So if you guys are the type of person like me who like needs a study guide, who needs notes, who needs some type of like written or typed up document that has everything that you need to know on it, I definitely would recommend purchasing it. I believe it's about $20, and I definitely would recommend, one, following her on Instagram and as well as purchasing her study guide, because I don't know about y'all, but I'm not about to sit here and type out a whole NCLEX review study guide. I'm just not. It's too much information. But if there's something out there that has everything like in short form, just like a quick review study guide, I'm down for it. So that is really everything that I did to pass the NCLEX. So let's recap. I paid attention in nursing school. I did well throughout the process, and I really like put the work in, as well as I did the HESI live review course, and I got a lot out of that as well. I purchased a UWORLD subscription, and I did about 400 practice questions and 2 practice exams, and I purchased the Your Nursing Educator NCLEX study guide. That's all I did. That's all you guys need to do. I got my authorization to test on a Tuesday. I took it on a Sunday. I only had 4 days to study, and I passed in 60 questions. And you guys can do it too. I promise you, you can. If you just stick to a plan and stay dedicated and just do what you gotta do, you can pass the NCLEX. I promise. The NCLEX, one thing I want to tell y'all about the NCLEX, when you leave, you may feel like you failed, and I feel like everybody I know that took the NCLEX, they left there feeling like, baby, I don't know if I passed, I don't know if I failed. It was hard, okay? And I feel like it is a very normal feeling. It is a very, very normal feeling. I was literally shaking, you guys. My hand, I was on like question 56, 57, 58, 59, and when you know the minimum amount of questions that you can take to pass, it just makes you so anxious. And when I pressed submit on the 60th question and the exam turned off, I think I might have passed out, y'all. Like, I was like, oh my god, I can't believe this is over. But I left feeling very unsure. And part of that is because the NCLEX is adaptive. As you get questions correct, the questions get harder. So towards the end of your exam, you're going to be getting really hard questions, and those are going to be the only ones that you remember. And it's going to make you feel like very unsure. It's going to make you feel like you failed. It's going to make you feel like, I'm not sure how I did. But it's only because you're only remembering those last hard questions that you got towards the end. So don't fret. You will do fine. You will do great. I ended up passing, and you guys can too. I promise you. Just put in the work. Take time. Take as long as you need. Don't compare your situation to mine. Like, maybe you need to do more questions. Maybe you need to do less questions. A friend of mine didn't even do any practice questions. She got her authorization to test, and she was just like, you know what? I'm taking the NCLEX tomorrow. And that's that. And she passed. You know what I mean? Like, so I feel like it's more about a mental thing. Like, when you feel mentally ready to take the exam, I feel like that's when you should take it. So don't let anybody tell you like, oh, you're waiting too long or you're going too fast. Like, you really just have to listen to yourself and know yourself. And if you feel like you're ready and you're just ready to get it over with and you just want to try and you think you can do it, go ahead and take it. But don't feel bad if you need to do a little bit more studying or take a little bit more time, because everybody is different and everybody has their own path. So I'm wishing you guys all great luck. You can do it. The NCLEX is a very hard exam, but you can pass it. I know you can.